Women Up Radio, designed to facilitate women's empowerment, improve your career, develop your talents, incorporate your passions, achieve fulfillment and success.
Hello, this is Women Up Radio, supporting Empower Women, and today we're talking about women's success in STEM and innovation in the world of neuroscience. I'm joined in the studio by my guest, Sara Isbell, CEO, President, and co-founder of the California-based Mercaptor Discoveries, searching for a cure for neurodegenerative diseases and traumatic brain injury. Her startup is working on medication to prevent things like brain trauma and arrest the progression of conditions like Alzheimer's, epilepsy, and strokes. So, welcome to the program, Sara.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. So, please start by telling us about your career. How did you start in STEM, and particularly in researching and developing medication in the field of neuroscience?
Well, I started when I was a very little girl. I had an interest in science and in math, and I had parents that were very encouraging in the sense that they would tell me that I could do anything I wanted to do. So that is a big help to have as you're growing up, to be installed with those ideas. And the brain, actually, I remember in 8th grade when I was told about the brain by some teacher, just explaining how, it's the center of all your thoughts and your feelings and everything you do.
Yeah.
I became very fascinated with it. And, I was very interested in science, and it kind of just came together. I want to do neuroscience.
Oh, right.
And at the time, at the time it was probably mid-'80s, and it was unheard of, that women would be doctors, kind of, and women in science, and especially, I'm part Hispanic, so I had that on top of me going to, almost white school. And it was almost a stubbornness that I remember having, thinking, well, this is a very hard field. Everyone kind of says, no, you can't.
Yeah.
So I took that stubbornness, you could say, and applied it to determination.
Yes.
And when I got close to college, I just thought, well, I will apply and see what happens. And, it's a big mountain if you just start thinking of all the years and what you have to do and the struggles you're going to have. Yeah. And I found if I just look at it one day at a time and kind of have a far goal of know where I got to go, but not worry about when I'll get there, that's what really helped get me through.
Yeah.
And the drug molecule, that kind of just happened. I was doing my research, sticking with my interests. I got at this company, BioMarin, that was doing neuroscience. We spun it off, and that's how I started up Raptor Pharmaceuticals with 3 other people back in 2006.
Yeah.
And while we're at that company, we started to do these small molecule drug designs, and we discovered that they were working in the brain as preventing excitation in a lot of diseases. So from there, when our company got sold by another commercial company, we spun off Mercaptor and continued. So I've, just by following my interests, I'm now at this place doing neuroscience with these small molecule designs.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And did you find, you've mentioned, being Hispanic, and obviously as a woman, and the 80s, it was unusual, but particularly STEM, so chemistry, neurochemistry, biochemistry, molecular biology. Did you find any additional challenges when you were training because of being a woman? And what advantages did you find that it gave you when you were starting your career?
I definitely had challenges in the field of chemistry. Mm-hmm. In biology, I had, a teacher can kind of make or break it, even when you're, in a class and a school where you feel kind of tension and the the field you're going in, you feel tension.
Yeah.
And with math, again, it was really a great teacher. But in chemistry, I do remember being told when I started my very first chem class as a freshman at UC Davis, the very first day, there was a panel of grad students addressing the new class.
Yeah.
And they said out loud, one of the guys on the panel, they were all men, said, if you are a woman, you will not make it in this field. And then he followed up by saying, especially if you have a child. Now, I was sitting in the back of the class. There was about 150 people, and I had a child. I actually had a child at age 17, which made me feel even more motivated to go show the world and other women that you can do it, even with, all these other things you have in your life.
Good for you.
And he said, especially if you have a child. And I know he was, looking up at me, and I had my daughter next to me in the stroller on the stairs.
Yeah.
I was sitting on the end of the row. And I just got up at that moment, and I walked out with my daughter. And I remember thinking right then that I'm going to nail this program. I am going to, and I did. I ended up getting A's all through chemistry and in math. And again, it really was more out of the I'm going to show you sort of energy that kept me going. And the more, I heard criticism from, people like, it's hard for a woman. It's just, that next day I was like even more motivated than ever.
Yeah. No, it's great to have that reaction. And it is so frustrating that people still have such ridiculous ideas. But anyway, so...
it's true.
I know.
It's true.
I mean, they're just dinosaurs from another planet. But anyway, so I know this program, as you know, it's all about women's empowerment. And STEM is one of the sectors that people are talking about a lot recently. So how have you seen the opportunities in STEM develop for women over the last 10 or 15 years? Have you seen much difference or much improvement?
I definitely have. Of course, there could be a lot more, and you would kind of expect more with the, being so long and people saying that, women, they do say women now have, equal opportunity and all, but it's still far off from that. There is a difference. I do see more women in the lab. When I started maybe 20 years ago, it was all men. All my colleagues were men. My first lab experience at UC Davis and UC Irvine, all men.
Oh,
but
really?
currently in my company, we're mostly women, which is, it wasn't on purpose, but we turned out we are all women, and our CSO is a man, but there's 9 of us women. And they applied, and they were just, honestly, they, were the most qualified. And so in my world, I see a lot of women, but again, in the higher positions, when you get up to the exec team and the chief officers, it's still very scarce. And I do know when I started Raptor, there were, men being hired after me that had lower experience and doing, less work. It was kind of, they took on a piece of my work and I cross-trained. And I know they came on making about 30% than what I was currently making at the time with 7 years experience at that company. They were making 30% more than me.
Oh, really?
So recently I have seen it. It's still happening. But it is getting better. I am starting to see some more women in these higher up positions. But not enough.
No. It's about time that it really did get equal. I mean, I'm all for choosing the best qualified person, irrespective of gender or anything else. I think that is right. But unfortunately, I think all too often women don't get given the same opportunity. And it's just not fair. It really, and it's not even that it's not fair. It's from the company's point of view. I think they're missing out on so many opportunities of really capable, efficient, dynamic women or people working for them. When they don't have enough people from the women's sector, they're just hampering themselves. I don't understand. Anyway, so this is my hobby horse.
100, yeah, that is 100% true, though, that they do lose out on some dynamic, creative thinking.
Yeah.
We do think a lot different.
Yeah.
And I think it takes, all kinds in a village to work a problem.
Yes.
And women, we can work out problems in a different way.
Yes.
And wish we were more utilized in these higher positions for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I mean, if you have the complementary ways of thinking and working of both sexes, it can give such good results. So to not allow women onto the board or whatever the position, it's just negative. It's not even prejudice, although it is. It's just being stupid. It's cutting their nose off to spite their face. But anyway, so tell me, what are the essentials necessary regarding education to be able to follow a career in STEM and also in things like neuroscience and medical research, things like that?
So for STEM, there is, you need to get so in America, we have the 4-year program for a bachelor's of science. And that's really, you do need a college education. Yeah. You don't necessarily need to go up to the PhD level, but in America, you get a bachelor's of science, and you would get it in either, biology or math or chemistry. And then even in math, so you probably won't have taken all the right courses, but you then can specialize in these other types of like neuroscience or astrophysics, which is also very interesting to me.
Yes.
But it is true, and a lot of people, feel, I believe, that you need to get all the higher education, all the way up to a PhD to be looked at, and that simply isn't true. It is very expensive to get a PhD, and you come out with college loans, and it's almost impossible to find a job that will pay you enough to cover these loans.
Yes.
So people end up having to work 2 jobs. Yeah. I received a Bachelor of Science in biochemistry, and I specialized in neurochemistry and molecular biology. So each one of those was another year of courses. Yep. I did not go on to my PhD. Instead, I went out into the workforce, which I got a job in a lab. Yeah. And by experience, with 22 years, I ended up becoming a senior scientist, which usually only goes to PhDs. Yeah. But, if you just go out and do the work, it is actually looked favorable. Yes. With a lot of years of actually training at the bench. Yeah. Yeah. And then with math, sorry.
Yeah. Now, I was just going to say, because you mentioned neuroscience in particular, and I know neuroscience and innovation in neuroscience is a very specialized field. So what special skills do you need to succeed in this field? And do you think the door is open for women in this, or is it still a constant battle to advance?
Well, there's the battle to advance, I think, is across, all the, besides biology, which you tend to see a lot more women. The other, the chemistry. So if you're biochemistry or neurochemistry, you still see, a bit of competition where man, slightly less qualified or less years experience, or with a PhD that has no experience, and you have like decades. There is a little bit of that, but I encourage, just don't give up. If you have to keep reapplying, make a noise. Yes. And the special skills, you have, I'd say one is the interest. If you have an interest in something, you can learn it. You do, of course, all the coursework, all the book work, and then find a lab. It's really hard to find a lab in neuroscience, but now, because of the blood-brain barrier, they've kind of found ways to get over it. You see a lot more neuroscience being done in these pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
But it's really just an interest to learn it. If you really want to understand how the brain and the chemistry of the brain works, it kind of comes easy. I don't almost want to say easy, but studying and learning and, starting to put together new ideas because, you read articles. This is where the industry is researching and answering questions, and it'll just, motivate you. And I believe you can succeed if you have the interest and don't give up.
You are listening to Anna Letitia Cook at Women Up Radio.
So do you think that's the key to progressing in this field, or is there anything else that you think is essential as well?
That to me is kind of the key, just make some noise and do the best you can. And, it does get kind of deterring when you see, like when I heard how much this person, this male that got hired under me was making, you do kind of feel a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
But you have to shake that out. You have to just focus on yourself and the direction you're going.
Yes.
And just be determined, break that glass ceiling.
Yeah. No, I agree totally. And so tell me, how can innovation be supported? And particularly, what direction does research need to take to facilitate more breakthroughs in neuroscience, and particularly the areas that you're working in, like Alzheimer's and things like that? What do you think needs to be done to really give it a boost and to get more breakthroughs available to people to help them?
Well, that's a very good question, because I feel very strongly about innovation and how a lot of things need to change.
Yeah.
One of the main issues is companies especially biotech companies.
Mm-hmm.
There is a business model that has been thoroughly thought out by Wall Street, and, mostly led by men. And since it's all about profit, innovation takes a bit of time. Things that are worth doing and new ideas, they do take time and they take money.
Yeah.
And it seems to be ignored because everyone's trying to rush to get something in the clinic. Because if you can say, we have something in the clinic, your stock price goes up. And that is what leads what the company decides to put into the clinic and put out on the market. And if you look at what's on the market for neuroscience, for neurotreatments, there is absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
There are some drugs for MS that, help treat the symptoms. You can give, there's a drug, dopamine they give, but you have to go on it and off it because you can get issues, a lot of side effects. But still at the same time, you'll see the decisions being made by corporate, all led by men.
Yeah.
And those decisions are, we'll just keep repeating it in the clinic trial and just tell the media and Wall Street, oh, we almost hit our endpoint. We're going to do it again. And all these companies, their websites say they're innovative. They care about patients. And that simply isn't true.
Yeah.
It is incredibly hard to fund an idea that is a breakthrough because you need to let the researchers kind of do a bit. You can't give deadlines like, okay, we need to find a molecule that treats Alzheimer's in 6 months. That's your deadline. Yeah. Or people start companies with the idea of, we're going to go after Parkinson's. Let's create a company.
Yeah.
You can't force innovation and ideas. They just kind of come to you out of left field.
Yeah.
So you have this preconception and you start this company and you have nothing. So your first idea, you just like, well, that should work. And you push it through.
Yeah.
And so with Mercaptor, when we spun it out, we thought we got to leave VCs out of it. We got to leave these bankers.
Yeah.
So it's not, decisions are not made based on profit and money.
Yeah.
And we have been fortunate because our CSO has been able to seed the company and get us this far to actually have the time as a scientist, you follow the data.
Yes.
You don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
So you design an experiment and it could take 2 weeks because you're doing cells. And, if you're given the time, I see more innovations would come out. It's just the world here is, especially in America, feels this pressure to get to the end, regardless of if something works.
Yes.
And I would say that is mostly led by males in an archaic way of thinking power and money.
Yeah.
And
so
innovation suffers.
Yeah. In that case, what can women do to have a really meaningful impact in this area? I mean, is there something they can do to change that?
Well, the tricky part is being able to find a place where you can make money because, we all need to live and pay rent and be given the time because I believe women, we are very creative. And I feel if we were under the right conditions, there were the right job positions out there, we probably would make, a much bigger impact on innovation.
Yeah.
Because, we'd be thinking out of the box and bringing different complex thoughts to the problem.
Yeah.
But when you ask me that question, it's kind of sad because I cannot think of a way other than just keep trying and hoping you land a science job where your boss isn't giving you monthly deadlines.
Yes.
Unless you're self-wealthy, and you can get in maybe an academic lab with a much slower pace, and you're able to support yourself. But short of that, it is very hard.
Yep. You get stuck
to
in
make
the rat
those
race.
sort of. Yep, you sure do. And one thing, which again is a little hard, but if you keep trying every day, like I'm doing, is you can start up, your own little company. If you have an idea and you can sell that idea to someone to fund it.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of hard to start up a company. And I do not have an MBA. I am not a business person, but I know what I see the company structure should be.
Yes.
And if you just, take it day by day and go through all the steps that's needed, it's hard, but not as hard as it would seem. It would sound.
Yeah.
And in that way, you're kind of, if you start your own company and you're able to find funding for your idea, then, Bob's your uncle, so to speak. You're able to just, go at your own pace. And
you've got more freedom to follow your values rather than being pressured into looking just at the bottom line and the financial results.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great. So do you have any last tips or any strategies that you can give to our listeners so that they can improve their options in STEM? What do you advise?
I advise, for one, take all the classes you can when you do your higher levels and stuff. Definitely get that education certificate. And then just, apply. And again, be motivated by the fact that you will hear, women can't do this. The fact that a male may, get that position you applied for, that you feel you were really qualified for, just turn that around into feeling, well, I'm going to show them women are as equal and offer a different view. And I'm just going to keep applying somewhere else. Follow your interests and feel empowered by the fact that you're being told by the, male dominated industry that, well, okay, then I'm going to prove them wrong.
Yes, because basically they're threatened by you. So you can take up the challenge and beat them at it.
Yep. And I know it is really hard because you do feel. The other thing too is, women's groups. I formed a women's group when I was at UC Irvine, mainly because I was a single woman.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring other single women, single mothers, and young single mothers